around us that just feels right. Can't get my head around it, I can never hit the brakes. Every time you touch me, babe, you send me right out into space. You send me right out into space. Right into space. I'm not the kind of person who is sentimental, but this thing is making me soft, giving into my damn heart. It feels like I am losing my grip, going crazy, 'cause this doesn't make any sense. You're broken down all my defenses. No way back to the old me. When I'm stuck here on planet X, I'll become the person I've hated. Wonder what will happen next. Yeah, I don't know why. It's like a charge around us that just feels right. Can't get my head around it, I can never hit the brakes. Every time you touch me, babe, you send me right out into space. You send me right out into space. Right into space. My head tells me to stop, but there is nothing I can do. No. When I'm with you, I lose myself. I feel good. Oh, yeah, I don't know why. It's like a charge around us that just feels right. Can't get my head around it, I can never hit the brakes. Every time you touch me, babe, you send me right out into space. You send me right out into space. Right into space. Yeah, I don't know why. It's like a charge around us that just feels right. Can't get my head around it, I can never hit the brakes. Every time you touch me,
Like I was falling through the air. No one but myself to hold my hand. Standing in the shadows of what we have been. Sleeping with your back facing me. I know this isn't us. Baby, pull me closer, let's fall in love. Oh, I can feel my body move to every move you make, and I can feel the tension every time we're close. I know whatever happens, I will have you next to me. 'Cause tonight we have it all. 'Cause we're dancing as one. 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 We've been in two places all at once. Was that what we said would come undone? Feels like our minds have been turned off. Haven't seen each other for so long. I know this isn't us. Baby, pull me closer, let's fall in love. Oh, I can feel my body move to every move you make, and I can feel the tension every time we're close. I know whatever happens, I will have you next to me. 'Cause tonight we have it all. 'Cause we're dancing as one. 'Cause we're dancing as one.
Okay, important mic test. How's it going? Glad to be back in the studio.
You and me are moving. Make sure we get
Sounds good?
Let's just keep on dancing as one.
The levels are doing some weird stuff, but as long as you're telling me it sounds good, no lies. Yeah, well, this is Choco Nuts. This is a different filter than what you see when we normally are live, so that you could see the clock, the numbers better. I used to have a blur on this, so we were all like hazy, but that plugin didn't. I don't know. Something happened with that plugin. They went like pay, and now nobody can access it, and blah blah blah. Anyway. Alright. Putting the blast door down. See you shortly.
Just drive all the way to the rainbow's end. Just drive, and we'll never turn our backs again. So this is how we end up. The game is set to play. Every day remains the same now. One decision we obey. I just wanna climb on top of a hill and throw it all away, away. Take me far away before my mind spins off and I am all derailed, derailed. Just drive all the way to the rainbow's end. Just drive, and we'll never turn our backs again. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive.
I bet you'll come around, but don't get me wrong. Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. I feel it in.
It's time for our first impressions.
And your first look at the Pear Shaped Smart Doll.
I'm Sandy,
And I'm John.
and this is my Lady Disdain. Hi,
We're back.
we're back. This is
And
exciting.
I'm actually in studio and not in a hotel room.
It's great.
Just fantastic. For those of you inquiring in chat, I am feeling better. I am now, 17 days out from my first symptoms of COVID.
You still got a little bit of a something.
A little, yeah, but I also have like that when I'm here normally. So
yeah, it could be allergies.
Home. We may still be traveling. My family emergency is kind of a slow burn right now. We'll probably be doing some traveling back and forth between where we grew up and our current home. But Connecticut and Pittsburgh. I'm not sure why I was being weird and vague about it.
People know.
So we'll do our best to give you an idea of scheduling or if we're going to miss a news because of traveling, but we're going to try to not do that.
Let's say hi to some people. I noticed we've got Enchantarium is with us today. I'm assuming it's Barb. Could be Alex. Could be both. I'm not positive. Maybe you'd let us know.
They're mysterious like that.
And Beth Ramsden is with us. Who else have we got?
Hey, Carla Newman.
Carla Newman's with us. Got Choco Nuts. Michelle Murphy. Elena Warwick-Velez, Carla G is with us. Gosh, we got a good group today.
Nice big chat. And I'm sure you are all excited to see this lovely lady.
Yep, we're gonna do some comparisons with her classic sister since I have her, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the body and the changes and stuff like that, and what our impressions of it were. Although we know that if you watched our last video, our interview with Danny, you got a lot of that info, but now this is us telling you how we feel about it.
And what we won't be doing today is going over like clothing and fit and stuff like that. We're going to be saving that for a separate video that will be coming up. Sandy's going to take full measurements of her, which of course is only of the current pre-production version that we have, but that will get us as close as we can right now.
It'll get you close enough that you'll be able to do some planning to just maybe start working on some patterns, knowing that you'll have to tweak, but not enough to like start getting your Etsy shop stocked or anything like that.
Right. We absolutely we're not getting our. There it is. I saw it in chat, and it's just now coming up on the screen. Thank you so much, FMD.
Thank you.
FMD says, can you try the pear head on an original size doll body? Absolutely. We will be swapping heads, both the original head. We're going to actually swap Future's heads from body to body and see what it looks like for you. We're going to do our best to really kind of talk about the, as Danny always says, the reasons not to buy. What are the things that may annoy you about this doll? And there's a couple of key ones that I think may dissuade some people from purchasing her, and that's important to make sure you have clear expectations. But I would also point out this is a pre-production doll, so some things may change by the time she comes out, which may mean things improve or things get worse for one reason or another.
Right.
So take this to some extent with a grain of salt, but this should give you a clue whether
Yeah, I mean, Danny did send this to us for our opinion, which means that he could still tweak a few things, but more likely, I mean, she's really close to being ready, like really close.
So yeah, they have not done the production molds yet. So excuse me. If you want to hear more about kind of like where she's at in the production cycle and how that all works, be sure to check out our interview that we posted on last Monday with Danny. It was a lot of fun and really informative.
Should we open Q&A for this?
Yeah, probably. Maybe. You know what?
Or should we go back to the old method?
I think we're going to try... I think what we're going to do is try our best to keep an eye on chat in context, because I'd like to keep... If you've got a question about something we're talking about, then get it in while we're talking about it, to kind of keep everything together. Yeah, so let's we're gonna do. You know what? No, let's. I know I'm waffling here. We're gonna start the Q&A. Feel free to ask us a question in time, and we'll try and get it up there. But if we don't, pop it into the Q&A.
Right. If we miss it, put it in the Q&A.
Or the end. Let's see. The end of the show. All right, Q&A is up in the chat. So if you are joining us live, be sure to use that for the end of the show, and we can answer any of the remaining questions that we haven't been able to get to.
Sorry to spring that on you, John, but it just suddenly occurred to me that it might be useful.
No, we hadn't talked about it. So let's get into... I wasn't here for this. Let's talk about the unboxing. Now, we know the unboxing. We did not film it for you or do it live because the unboxing itself is not representative of the final experience.
That was at Danny's request. He said, please don't, because I don't want that impression in people's heads or getting around on the internet, because it's not what it's going to be.
So in that video, in the interview we did with him, he does describe what we received, which is basically the same stuff we have now, but she needs some adjustments to the bag and the box and things like that. So what I'd like to know about, since I wasn't here, how did it feel, Sandy? Like, what was what was it like opening up the pear body for the first time?
Well, it was exciting, of course. I mean, like, everybody in the audience is gonna know that. But I mean, I don't think that at first it felt all that different, but as I was pulling her out, she does feel more substantial. It feels, like having pulled so many dolls out of the Poochie Poochie at this point, I just, it just felt different. It just felt weightier. It was a little more awkward to get around her because I'm so used to a certain size doll.
Well, and what do you mean, plus the bag is not the right size, so the bag was, probably a little more snug than it needs to be. Right.
And of course there was no box in there or anything like that. So it was a very different experience. And of course, she did have to have an arm put on because she didn't fit in the bag because there's new bag coming. It was just an entirely different experience.
What was going through your head when you finally just pulled her out?
I couldn't believe that she was here. It was very exciting. And when I pulled her out, I was like, she is significantly wider. It's you can see it in the pictures, but until you actually have one in your hands, it's kind of like the whole thing that we always say about Smart Doll anyway. It's like you don't realize how big they are until you have one, and everyone's first comment is always, "Oh my God, she's huge."
Yeah.
It's a similar sensation with the pear-shaped girl. You don't realize exactly how substantial she is, but she's not that much heavier. I can see her feeling heavier if you're carrying her around for a long time, like Danny said. But if you're just picking her up and putting her down to change her clothes or whatever, or sitting her down on the couch next to you, you're not gonna go, this doll is really, really, really heavy.
Tempest Trice in the chat mentioned their first experience with resin dolls and things like that. How do you feel that the weight compares to your experience with resin dolls versus this? Although we only have, I guess we have a smaller resin dolls.
But I've picked up other people's resin dolls before. I think that she's lighter. I don't think she's as heavy as a resin doll.
Yeah.
But it's hard to center of gravity and stuff like that on it. The balance of it is it's going to be different.
Yeah.
I think because she has a frame all the way through rather than just being hooks and wire, hooks and
held together by tension,
cord
basically,
and stuff like that. I mean, she's got more substance all the way through, so it's a little bit different. It's really hard to describe, but I mean, I would say that she fits very well into the Smart Doll family. I don't think that she is going to make you go, oh my God. But then again, Danny does say that he treats them as completely different products.
And I think that is, I understood it conceptually, but when I saw her for the first time and actually picked her up, that's when I kind of understood just like why he feels that way. It definitely, the Pear body has like everything engineering about them is totally different. I mean, the frame's the same, but everything built around that frame, how it's put together and how it's held together is, you know, it changes things as you start to do things. And as I think we'll talk more about when we start getting into clothing and things like that, the scaling of clothing and the thickness of clothing has, I think, a greater impact and feels a little bit different on this doll because of what it does to the size and shape. She's not a stick, you know. She doesn't like take whatever silhouette you put on her and just, you know, work. It's a little bit more. I guess what I said, impacted by things like the weight and the weight of the fabric, the drape of the fabric, and things like that. But,
a little side note, since I know Carla Newman's in the chat, the $1 skirt fits her perfectly.
Yeah. Yes.
It was like it was meant to be.
Yes, Carla helped me out and bought me a skirt that was really, really pretty for the girls. Sandy altered it and then unaltered it for her, and it looks pretty great. But anyway, again, we will dive more deeply into clothing and measurements in another video. All right, shall we put her
through her paces? Yeah, let's put her through her paces, you guys. And she does have a name.
Oh, okay. Apparently she has a name, so we're gonna actually do an induction.
We can name her tonight. Today.
So here you're gonna get a nice close-up view. I'm gonna put regular Future here out just for comparison.
So I gotta say, like, and you can see it in the thumbnail for the video, but look at these two dolls next to each other. One of the things that immediately struck me when I put them next to each other is, my gosh, they look so different. But yet, when you see her by herself, you go, oh, that's Future. It's pretty wild. Like, look at the faces. They are so different looking. Like the space between the eyebrow and the eye is much wider. The coloring on her is much more vivid. Now, I don't know for sure if my Future might be a little bit paler because I got her as a Pebble. I got her, you know, pre full release.
Right. Her. This is. I don't think this is technically final face up.
It might not be. I'm not positive, so other people could tell me that if this is what their Future looks like, or if she has more coloring. But her coloring is much more vivid. So they actually do look like very different girls. They look more like sisters than twins.
Right. Yeah, this is the sculpt, and we'll do some head swapping later, but the sculpt here looks so good. I love the extra width, the more almost somewhat square jaw line. It is really good. There's this element of realism Danny talked about a little bit.
I love that she has a more square jawline because I have a jawline like that.
Yes.
So it, you know, like even when I'm thin, I have a jawline like that. So to me, it's like really cool that she has that jawline.
But yeah, she looks so good, and let's see if I can.
So different. I said it too. I was like, John, I thought that they were the same doll, but they're, you know, like, and I can tell that this is Future when I just look at her, But when I put them next to each other, they are so different.
Well, you'll notice some of the changes here in the face up. He has raised the eyebrows and distributed the eyebrows and the little folds in the eye more like at a higher point. So like there's some definite key differences here that are there specifically because of the size and shape of her face.
The eyes are widened out. They've got that trick, more of that trick with the widening on the outside.
Right, where they extends the eyelashes to make the eye look larger. All in all, like a much more realistic looking face.
I like her a lot. She makes me happy.
Yeah, she is very, very cute. I mean, to me, the interesting thing thus far has been when I look at the classic Smart Doll, what makes them cute is their face. Mm-hmm. When I look at the Pear Shaped Doll, what makes them cute is everything. Yep. Like the curves, like everything about like the sculpt is really, really quite amazing.
Yeah, I think like you don't realize, like, I absolutely still love my classic Smart Dolls. I mean, Future is best girl, but they do look more stylized, and even Danny used the same word. They are more stylized. They have long legs, they have really slim waists, they have long arms. They're much more stylized. Yep. This looks more like a real girl,
and yet manages, I think, to still hold on to it's not hyper realism. We're not talking resin doll sort of level of realism. I mean, even resin dolls are stylized realism, but this still, to me, has a stylized anime, ness about it. Tepistrife says, demi-real, here we go. Semi-real and demi-real. Yeah. Yeah, there is. It's just a notch. I think it's semi-real. I think it's just that now the body is semi-real.
Right. Yeah, and so people were questioning putting the anime heads on this, and Danny talked about it in our video. Just that it's gonna work. I mean, you're gonna put clothes on this body, and it's just gonna be like having a chubby anime girl.
So let's. We've talked about the weight. How does she feel? We talked about like she's cute and cuddly. Mm-hmm. How does it feel like holding her and like cuddling the Pear Shaped Doll versus?
This reminds me more of cuddling the dolls I had when I was a little girl.
Okay.
It's weighty. It's got the more feeling of like cuddling, say, an American Girl doll. Like it's got that chunk.
Yeah.
To it. So she's actually quite easy to cuddle comparatively. She's comfortable in your arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's weightier, but she is like, she definitely feels, she's got that substance that you can cuddle, which is nice.
Danny also pointed out some of the differences in like the vinyl. Now, as you get into just naturally making the vinyl larger, it's going to change the squishiness of it because it's got more room to move.
Right. The frame is there's much more gap between the frame and the vinyl.
If I get it the right angle, which is like these size, that's like I'm squeezing hard, and that can somewhat squeeze in. Her thighs here are actually harder. Oh, that's even harder to squeeze. These are, and this is likely because, this is likely because I think because it's larger, but it's also that sort of cylinder shape is giving it still more strength. Although, judging by the thickness on the end of the thighs, where the knee, when they come down over the knee here, this actually probably is a little bit thicker. They've had to make the thighs a little bit thicker to hold up.
I did want to mention briefly before I forget, in case anybody might have picked up on it timeline-wise, Future's head is on an evolved body right now. I wanted to make sure that it was a true comparison.
Yes, right, because she didn't originally come. We got her just before Evolve came out.
Yeah, her body was actually is actually G2 normally.
So yes, but this what you're seeing here is an Evolve frame. So these are a like for like comparison in that regard. The shins, similar, actually quite similar to each other. Again, I think they've maybe made them a little teeny bit thicker. Again, similar situation. So it looks like, in general, the thicker areas of both bodies on the pair body are just a little bit harder to squish, versus the arms have squish that we're not used to, because this is so much right on top of the frame internally.
And it feels more like I mean, it doesn't feel like the bust. The bust is much softer, but it feels closer to the bust. Like it's like somewhere in between. I don't know. I think what you would expect.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, it is still difficult to squeeze, but there are certain places, certain curves where it's easier to squeeze than others. So being that, and of course the squishability of the bust is pretty much the same.
And she has the larger bust on right now. Danny did send us both busts, and I put the larger bust on her for now.
Yeah, I didn't like the larger bust as much at first, but I think I've changed my mind. But
the cleavage is attractive. If she's wearing something that's showing some cleavage, the bigger bust looks good.
It also provides a little bit more shape, more silhouettes. Okay, so one of the big differences, I would say this is probably one of the biggest challenges about the new doll, is removing and replacing the arms.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Now, Sandy, you have issues with your hands.
I have whenever I get repetitive stress. So like if I've been playing video games a lot lately, and my right hand, I get like tendonitis in my whole hand.
Yeah.
So my hand right now is a little bit weaker than it normally is. But let's see if I can. So if you push.
Well, let's talk about how you normally would do it.
Yeah, let's try. Okay, I got it. It does require a little bit of force.
So Danny has added basically these extra ribs, and I believe it's possible the tabs here could be broken off. I believe that's what he's talked about in the past. So this is a newer version of the frame. Let's... No, all right.
He said there's another rib on there. Is it on the inside?
It might be on the inside. It must be on the shoulder socket. I think that's what it is. You're right. It's not on the arm. It's on the shoulder socket. So that's basically there's you can see sort of the ribbing inside here, and they could remove one of them possibly, and the what this is doing is providing the strength that the socket needs to hold onto this arm, because otherwise it will just pop right back out. So it really needs... Oh, that's the wrong arm. But now I'm curious.
Try the other one. I was gonna say give OG the big arm.
Let's see if I actually... Okay, I actually got it in there. I will say this. The more we are playing with this, we're right-handed, and we've been really trying this over and over again. This is becoming
easier.
This is becoming a little bit easier as we go. But
it was something. It would have been something prohibitive to me. Like, you know, coming on here today, if it hadn't loosened up at all, I would say somebody that has like no hands, you know, arthritic hands, or somebody that's just smaller and weaker or whatever, that might be a prohibitive experience. That would be a reason not to buy.
So, so I've been doing this wrong. I've been avoiding showing you like currently what the best way to do this is, just to try and give you like worst case scenario. Normally on the current doll, you would kind of grab it up by the ball up here and then pull. And with this doll, it's actually best to kind of grab it almost like you would grip. I think of it like gripping a gun or something like something or like a remote control, like something that you're pointing.
Okay, I got a better something like a tea kettle thing where you're pushing down the top.
Yeah.
To open it up, like a kettle to open up a pot.
So thumb on there, and that gives you a pretty good place. And I do have to kind of brace against her neck there. Now, as always, Danny says...
Twist
helps as well.
Yeah, so in our video, he showed one way, which was to pinch the top of the ball of the shoulder. But then he also told us afterwards to do what we just told you, which is to squeeze it like you're lifting up the lid of a kettle.
Doll Please says, like a Wiimote! And I'm going to go with that from now on. You gotta squeeze it like a Wiimote. And then we'll put it back in. And you want to wait until you get that snap. And you'll know you get it in if when you rotate, you get the haptics. So that is in. It's got a hold on it. And I can't easily
pull it. No, it's securely in there.
Engine Terry asks, is it harder than the Macho Boy arms? I think a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, a little bit.
Again, though, we don't play as much with with our boy doll, but which we can actually see. Where is he?
He's right. He's behind Ambition. He's. I'll get her. I'll get him.
Oh, I see. I see his legs. We can. Okay, so this. Here's a. Now, of course, this isn't a great comparison because there's no Evolve boy dolls.
Right.
But in terms of like grabbing this, it is a lot easier to grab on the Pear body because it still has more squish, whereas this is like a ball. This is really hard. So I would say in that regard, if he just does this on the Evolve frame, mm-hmm. I think it's going to be pretty difficult. Although again, with this idea of getting more leverage here and pulling out. So I don't know.
I think it's. I've taken his arms out several times to change him. So,
but it's easier because it's not the Evolve frame,
right?
And the issue again with the Evolve frame is that there's so much basically that it wants to push it out, and he needs more force to hold in that shoulder joint for the pear body and the guys. So he's definitely going to have to work on it with the guys. I would say if he doesn't change anything, a guy shoulder will get much worse on the girl, on the evolve frame. But that's all right. You can watch from over here.
If he'll stand. Oh,
He looks like an old. He looks on shoulder, but like an old man. So yeah, this is how much to expect this to change? I don't know. I know that he did mention some options that they could have done, but he has reasons why he doesn't want to do that, like making this even softer. But also playing with that rib. I think that's probably the next place to figure out. Before we really start digging into any sort of like modifications, I don't know, like assuming that's even something that we can do to modify the shoulder, we're gonna give this some more time with just this and see what happens.
Yeah, it could be just that it's very new and there's like, it needs to rub down a little bit from being pulled in and out.
Could be.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is I don't know of too many reasons, except for like the really weird clothes that Danny has made occasionally that like are so like Supergirl or something like that, like where
the really fitted,
incredibly fitted. Yeah. Like I don't think you're gonna need to do that much removing of the arms. You could probably stick to removing the hands if necessary and just doing the typical arms behind, slip a coat on.
I would say where it's going to come into play at first would be if you were trying clothes that are not made for her.
Right.
Because, like you're just going to have to do some workarounds to get them on, but once they're on, they look okay. Yeah.
Similarly, I was a little surprised. Danny sort of demonstrated this, like, but this joint is a little bit stiffer than I was expecting. But you really want to kind of, if you're going to do a sit, you want to kind of lock them in there. And then you'll get a nice...
Look at the leg! It's so good!
But you can see here the pinching that's happening on the fabric. And so depending on the weight of whatever fabric you're using, I have a feeling unless you're wearing dresses, you're going to want to avoid underwear.
Why? Because
of the amount of bunching, like the amount of weight that this adds to whatever you're wearing. Mm-hmm. And any amount of, like, if you want to maximize maneuverability and posability, right, like you put on the jeans are going to have, jeans have a harder time anyway, but you're not necessarily going to be able to sit.
Well, he did say he was putting the elastic in the back, which is an old, like, women who are curvy have been wearing pants with elastic in the back.
Nobody wants that.
Years. Nobody wants to remember that, but it's true.
Fair. But now it's just like all the entire jean is more elasticy. Like yeah. they've spread out the elastic throughout the whole fabric. Yeah, it just takes a little bit more effort. But the advantage here is with the Evolve frame, you can actually lock it in there. Like if you can get it into that position, it's going to stay there.
Yep.
Which is great.
So there's something to hear.
Yeah. That's actually almost getting into the red. So let's do a comparison of the haptics. The two main haptic areas are this, the shoulder joint and the hips. Those are the loudest. I'm randomly clicking stuff, but yes.
Elastic waistbands, God's End, yes.
Redhead Rambling wants a back comparison. That's a good idea here.
And we do have to talk about that too.
Yeah, let's talk about the junk. Here are the two backs. You can see much deeper here, and it's even more dramatic if we get it on the side.
So that Danny had said that they had to actually, in the design, they had to recess that the stand port.
Yeah, I mean, this is with the goal of keeping the internal frame exactly the same.
Right. The clickety-click stands still work.
Yeah, the clickety-click stands actually works really well, except what I would say is, again, this works really well. I had one here. There we go. They're right there. Now, I don't think it's going to matter too much, but I will say is the more you reduce the amount of room here, the less close you'll be able to get this to being like straight down if you wanted to, I suppose. Most of the time, though, you're going to have
most of the time you're going to want it out a little bit. So.
So we haven't tried this with because we don't have like jeans that fit her or anything like that. To see how much it gets in the way, but I don't think it should be a problem. I think he is at the edge of like how much he can, how large the butt can be, and still actually have the clickety click stand work.
The original stands would not be as good.
Well, he would have to completely redesign the original stands. They would not function. So I think the clickety click stands are definitely like a more adaptable design.
Yeah, but anybody who actually already has a smart doll, it has one, and you get one, most likely, I would assume you'll get a clickety click stand with her. So
here, you can actually, we'll do a real butt comparison. She's got real cheeks. It's again, sculpting looks great.
Adorable little peek out there underneath, just like on these girls.
Yeah, and again, it looks more natural here. All right. Christina says if they just made the peg longer in length, it should have less of a depth. And that is true, but then they would have to be having separate parts. Again, I believe the reason for this is that the goal was to have the exact same frame, to have no differences, same frame, everything.
He's got to bring it down to where he can keep producing this, and because she's going to be a frontline girl. They're going to be frontline girls. The pear shaped body. So he's got to make it so that he can get them out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, certainly you could argue that he could do it. It's just one piece. And he could make it longer, but those types of changes add up. And in the end, it's a little odd, but you find yourself forgetting about it.
Yeah.
Just like the fact that it exists at all.
Right.
Like it's completely unnatural to begin with.
Yep.
So yeah, it doesn't bother me too much. I could see, I don't know, if I were doing like photography and doing like a back shot or something like that. You've already got issues of like the line, the bust line and the unnaturalness of that anyway. So you would probably be, you would probably just Photoshop over,
yeah, I mean, people who really have issue with the unnaturalness are already doing Photoshop work anyways. So you just Photoshop that out.
But again, yeah, this indentation is probably a solid reason not to buy for some people. Like, it's just an aesthetic thing that they will not like, and it will bother them. I totally get it. I don't see it changing. The other thing that will probably bother some people is the sound. So in order to do this, I'm going to do a comparison. You gotta bear with me a second. I'm going to essentially turn off all of the compression and filtering that I do on the microphone so that we sound good. So that you're going to get just, that. So we're not going to talk while we do this. We're going to do a comparison of the joints, and then talk about it afterwards. Okay. Evolve frame shoulder. Pear body shoulder. Evolve frame hip. Pear body hip. Okay.
So there's a significant difference.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is like I mean, this is just going by meters, so this is not necessarily an accurate way. And I did have them about the same distance, which was about, I don't know, 1.5 feet from the microphone. It is about, I would say, 5 to 10 decibels louder on the pear body. So the loudness is louder. I think to the I don't know. There is an element of the pear body. I'm trying to think of like what's the worst way I could put this, right? Like I feel like there's an element of the pear body, the sound of it, because of that larger chamber, that starts to sound plasticky and a little bit more play line. So I could see somebody feeling like this is giving me cheaper doll feels.
But yet not, because it's like, there's I think to get cheaper doll feels, you get, there's a substance issue that goes with that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, there's, and I'm not saying that she feels cheap. I'm just saying that sound could evoke.
Yes, so that might be this sound level might be a reason not to buy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's more echo. There's sometimes weirdly a sharpness to it, but also a densers to it, depending on how you're moving it. But yeah, she definitely has bigger sound.
She's got thunder thighs.
Yes, she does have thunder thighs. The knees, all the other joints, the smaller ones are much less different than their previous counterpart. So those are the two big ones: shoulders and hips. All right, let's swap some heads.
Sure.
Now we're going to see how easy is it to get the head on and off.
We have not done this yet, so I've taken her head off, but yeah, I haven't tried the swap.
Okay, we know this is what the other way is going to be the harder thing. So here we're going to do pear-shaped on classic body.
Yep.
Everyone's underwear is getting all... There we go.
That's your fault.
Yep.
It makes her look... that's playline to me.
Yeah.
That has, like, you know, knockoff Barbie vibes.
It's the head's a little bit too big looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't think it's horrible.
And dressed, it might not be too bad.
Again, yeah. All of these...
Elena says Disney princess doll line. Yeah, exactly. That head that is just a little off, and the face is a little too big.
Yeah. I think I think with clothes it would be very different, and that's the thing. I think we're going to get into more when we get into talking about clothing and fit and everything. Things change so drastically when you add clothes to them, and it's a subtle thing, but I realize I just said drastic and subtle, but like when you think about it, like there's a fine line between like when clothes start to push something over the edge. So you get her layered up with some clothes, I don't think you're probably going to notice the difference.
Tempest Strife says they actually like it.
Yep.
I like it. It is playful. It's not. I personally is not my vibe. I could see doing it for, like, say I decided I wanted to do an Ariel cosplay. I could totally do that. You know?
Yeah, and I think there's definitely going to be some people getting chaos heads and just putting them on their body, you know, their classic bodies. I think it works well enough to give you more characters. Like I would do this for photography or filming or something like that if I wanted to get have some more characters and, you know, get some custom painted, you know, G8s. Let's see.
That's true. Custom. There's a lot of opportunities for aliens because you could do some interesting things like adding like ridge paint and stuff like that because you have more room.
I wasn't thinking of aliens specifically, but yeah. Okay, now this is going to be a problem because the hole here, the sculpting for the neck hole, is not going to probably allow this to happen. If it does, it's going to be weird. So let's see. Oh, it's just like it. I'm
the
trying
neck
to show
is
you
bigger. Yeah, like it's weird. You can't even get it all the way on there easily.
Well, the problem is normally to get it on, you would hold on to like the chest.
It's because he said that the peg it's like there's not enough peg there.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting it down far enough as he does.
Yeah, I don't even put her wig on.
But like she got a little bit of a hump neck, and he did mention like you could maybe mod it to put a pin in it to make it the size right. I'm gonna put her wig back on and. See, this definitely does not fit in any usable manner. It would need modification to stay on.
And it looks...
so weird!
She looks pregnant.
Maybe.
Because her body is, like, larger than her... Like too large for her face. So, like, it gives you that more exaggerated...
Yeah.
That more exaggerated, more pronounced thing. It's weird.
This is almost as bad as the tiny arm.
Yeah, it's weird.
Let's just. I can't get the arm out. All right, not enough to. I'm gonna like pop her head out. Like this is disturbing. All right, off you go.
Lee says, yeah, no, swap those poor things back. I would say, yeah, definitely the bigger head on the smaller body is a look. It doesn't feel aesthetically smart doll to me, but it's a look. The smaller head on the bigger body is weird.
Okay. Bust, did you bring in the other bust?
I did not, but I can go get it.
All right.
I should grab my wrist thing while I'm there.
Yeah, I still haven't. I'm gonna actually take this off so you can see kind of the difference of how the torso is sculpted and cut versus so it's definitely got a bigger drop there, which is interesting. They've kept sort of a higher up here for under, but feels like there's a bigger drop on the side. All right, so here is the smalls.
We don't know what this is. This is probably medium for the Pear Girl, because he did say that he showed us the headlights bust, so we know that there's a larger bust coming. How
are you feeling about the two busts at this point?
Like I said, I like this with open shirts and like fitted type thing. Like it looks really good underneath the bra top. I personally wanted this bust for my mini me, so I was excited to get it.
Okay.
But I do actually really like the way this bust looks. In terms aesthetically, it looks like, she's pushing them up.
It's hard to, you can't really get side by side like that and show the difference, but yeah, I really feel like with clothes, I feel like naked I like this. With clothes I like the added silhouette of the larger bust.
Mm-hmm. Like she's got something on pushing her up or whatever.
But yeah. This is I think this is going to take some time. My guess is he talked about hasn't decided whether he's going to bundle these together.
In terms of like doll scale, I will tell for the sewists there is a significant size difference between the two busts.
Yeah.
You will be doing some like going, like, okay, maybe this top doesn't go with this, or this top, doesn't go with this bust, because there is a significant size difference.
But in terms of whether or not, do you think that Danny should do a bundle with the two busts?
That's been my thing all along. I have said yes.
Okay.
Specifically because of the fact that, for one thing, he's calling this the Pear Shaped Doll. She looks significantly more pear shaped with the small bust, but because this gets much closer to hourglass when you put the larger bust on.
Sure.
So, but the other thing is women manipulate their clothes and stuff like that to fit, like they manipulate the size of their chest to fit certain clothes, and still, the way everything sits. So this like mimics that, which I think is great. And it allows us curvy girls to do something with the girls.
a couple people in the chat are basically saying they'd rather see it sold separately to save on the costs, but they're making some assumptions which I think are probably incorrect in that they want to be able to choose for each character. Spiral Mind says option to select to save on costs. Danny rarely does options to select on the dolls. He standardizes a set. It
adds additional complications for packing.
Yeah.
And you could say, you get it wrong. Now he's got to deal with the fact that you've got the wrong bust and he's got to send you a new one. And then that increases cost ultimately.
So for what I would expect the choice to be is either both of them together or one of them chosen as the standard, and then the other one you would have to buy when it's available for option parts.
Right.
Which is exactly what we have currently. We have a standard bust.
Yep.
Which is this. And then we have the option busts that you could buy separately. So when you want an option bust, you're still buying this. What it gives you the choice is if you align with the standard bust, then yeah, you don't need to buy the other one.
Right. I think that like Danny even said he's leaning. I asked, and he said he's leaning towards the standard, the smaller bust being the standard, and the larger bust being an option. But he also said he is still thinking about bundling them.
Yeah, I kind of liked. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. He sort of talked about doing this with the whatchamacallit, with the gray dolls, right? He started bundling with the gray dolls. I think it would be interesting, although like plenty of our chat is still saying keep them separate, let us choose. I would like to see him do a round of do the early ones. Like most people are going to want the option, for one of their dolls or whatever. So I would I don't know. I still think it makes sense to bundle for the first X, a number of dolls or runs or whatever.
Right.
And then go to a standard and an option part. So it's everyone can get them out there. You can save your money on getting both of them together, or you can wait, a few weeks until the ones with the standard comes out and he stops bundling or something like that.
He bundled with the gray, and So Fun and Love said bundling in the gray, as far as I calculated, comes to the same as if you're buying separately. So
yeah. So I mean, it's hard to say. It's a lot easier to I don't know. We'll see what he ends up choosing.
But I would say the other thing I would say is So Fun and Love. Are you calculating the cost of gray?
Right.
Because gray is more expensive than a standard doll.
Right.
So the price point alone would be higher.
Right. So you actually can't. You could
look at blue.
You would have to look at blue. And so based on blue experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So. We'll see. I know we'll be, if he does do them as option parts, it's just that I just hope availability of the option parts is
equivalent so that people can get them. I think one of the things is I like your idea. One thought would be to do it at first.
Yeah.
The first round is a little bit more expensive and comes with both busts, because that gives people an opportunity, especially since he knows he's getting a lot of new customers. That gives those new customers the opportunity to play with multiple different sizes of busts,
or shies them away from purchasing immediately and lets the pair body get out there a little more and get more people using it.
Also, this is a big interest for sewists, particularly curvy sewists, but sewists in general, and sewists are going to want both busts, knowing what I know, which is that there actually is a circumference difference that is noticeable.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in a nice stretchy knit, but if you're making a blouse, there's going to be a difference.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think the bundling works when, like, it works in the beginning for people who are only going to buy a few. And the bundling, after some time, and I feel like we've probably hit that point, and he is still bundling it with the gray, but I feel like by now the bundling could have easily come off of the gray. But I don't know. What we don't know is what does. Well, the assumption would be that the bundling helps Danny because it's less SKUs to deal with. It's less, it's just they set them up. They're good to go. Everything. It's a lot simpler. So it's a production, benefit that more than it is a whatchamacallit, like about the customer specifically.
Right.
But, we'll see. We'll see what he does. I think no matter what, I think that the bundling shouldn't be permanent if he does bundling.
Yeah.
And it should be relatively short.
Like maybe the first round of adopters, it's bundled, and then he gives him time to figure out like what else he wants to do after that.
Yeah. So let's take a look and see if we have any questions in here that we can answer. Okay, so Tempest Strife says, if Pear and OG Smart Doll plank, what are their respective centers of balance or centers of gravity? Let's switch to... No, I think it's just like that.
Like right on the belly.
You want to start reducing fingers until you find... Yeah,
it's heavy. So, but I would say right her belly, is right about where it is.
It's a little. It's more in the crotch area. It's hard to find.
No, I've got one finger wrapped around her actual belly where it protrudes.
Yeah. Temperature is a little higher, but not by much. I would say that's accurate. It's about maybe a few centimeters higher.
The other thing about Pear Doll, and Danny mentioned it, and it was actually something that I didn't even think about in terms of like sewing and making your own clothes. Like I said, I am going to be doing the measurements so that you guys can have them, but things like the axis of the shoulder is different. So your armholes are going to be a little different because you're going to have to compensate for the fact that arm is thicker going around and like where it wants to stop. Just like sewing for a curvy person, you make little adjustments that make it fit better.
Yeah. See, Christina says, can you weigh the dolls and see the difference between the two? We're not prepared to weigh them. We haven't weighed them yet. We will do that as a part of our measurements and clothing video.
But I can show you the cuddle that she is like super, like she feels like you've got something to cuddle.
Yeah.
Like she's a little bit more, and then I could do this one because these are my girls. This is more of like a get it in your hand and kind of press it against you. Here you can really get her in your arm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like there is definitely a cuddle factor with this doll.
Our last question in the Q&A was from Enchantarium. What's her name? So should we
do that? Okay.
let's
We're gonna bring her in her underwear, but that's okay. That's appropriate because she is proud.
Elena says she needs the animal hoodie. Well, we have the next best thing.
Yeah, maybe I should do this off camera.
Okay. So Sandy has been thinking about a name. We came up with a couple of different options for names. Sandy has been doing sort of a Shakespearean theme with Miranda here, but she also did sort of like a Starlet's theme with Grace.
But Grace is also part of.
Focus on your. I'm vamping. Focus on your thing.
I'm focusing.
So yeah, with Grace, we came. I will tell you one name that I was that was like funny, cute, and ended up just like we couldn't bring ourselves to name it, but I did think of the name Winnie, which. Winifred could very go stylistically with the other names, but I'm not sure I could, with a straight face, call our first and only pair girl Winnie the Pooh.
Although I would love a Winnie the Pooh outfit.
Yes, Winnie the Pooh outfit would be fantastic, but Winnie the Pooh Kigurumi would be great. Yeah, I was like, this is. I was like, this name is focusing. Carla says Winnie the Pear. Yes, perfect.
Well, I did almost want to name her Margaret of Anjou because of Anjou pears.
Yes, there is a Shakespeare female character named Margaret of Anjou. Unfortunately, I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. She doesn't look like a Margaret. Maybe a Maggie.
Oops. Christina says, how about Autumn?
Autumn is a good name. It's been on the list before. But I kind of wanted to make her fit with my overlapping future themes. Like I have Rosemary and Grace and stuff, and they go with...
in general, older sounding names, traditional sounding names, starlets / Shakespearean.
Did her hand come off? No, it's just coughing.
Well, Redhead randomly said there's a historical Margaret of Anjou. That's probably why she's in the show.
She's from it's from either the Henrys or the Richards.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah, so it's from the historical plays.
We are just
almost there. Putting the wig back on. Get her situated. I gotta tell you, like, after handling the pear body for less than a week, but for a few days now, it is so, I don't know, it's so weird looking at the regular body, and I definitely look forward to seeing what Danny has in mind for doing any sort of re-sculpting on the classic body. Can
you go to top down for a minute?
You want top down? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're still gonna be seen, but
oh, I am?
Yeah, because you see the...
I was going to just put her on the peg.
You're going to see it. I mean, I tell you what, all right, so here, if you really want a reveal like that, we'll go top down, and then I will turn off that.
Okay.
All right. Get it in there. I know this is fascinating television. I'm going to gesture a lot with my hands, so it's more interesting, and then maybe give you a little drum roll.
I can't even see to put it in the holder. There it is.
All right. Ta-da!
The white tiger kigurumi fits.
We said we wouldn't be doing clothes, but this was too good to pass up. She fits this so well.
She looks adorable in it.
Yep.
It's like that future. This kigurumi looks great on Future and Multi-Chi wear it so well
Yeah.
because of their adorable little faces.
Yeah, it is so good.
But I will say, you will notice, you would not go, this is the Pear Girl.
No, you wouldn't. No, because it does make it look, but so the filling out the inside makes this just more cuddly.
Yeah. What was I calling her? What was I saying last night? Chubby kitty meow. I kept like putting it on her and going chubby kitty meow
over and over again.
Mana says, where is that kigurumi come? This is authentic vintage CJ. Danny
which
made
you can
this.
Occasionally get it.
It goes for around 400, 450 if you get it secondhand.
Yeah. It's I don't even think we've seen it in like chaos, utter chaos or anything, have we?
No, it's just been a couple have been out there. It came in like a yellowy too, I think it came in like a regular tiger color as well.
But there are some great kigurumis out there from other people who have made them. We've got a few of them that we picked up at DollCon Dallas from the BJD babes.
Yep, I believe that's right. But I will say, I did tell Danny that this fits. I told him it looked really cute, and he went, "It fits." And so the pattern's already made. So maybe we'll see some more. Danny, maybe?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I think it is time to bring back the kigurumi. I think it definitely is. Mm-hmm. I think people will. I mean, people always want them, but I think Danny will maybe be more inspired to make them. But that he's making the sort of not kigurumis, but the kigurumi cardigans or whatever.
The other thing would be does he want to release the pattern?
Sure.
It's one of the other, but this would be a much more. This is a great piece. Just the design of the head is really awesome with the little nose and the this is all stuffed right here.
Yep.
It's really cute. So, that said, we are going on the Shakespeare theme. And would you do me a favor and look up the meaning of the name?
Sure.
Before we
This is so cute. Okay. We really should have done this earlier.
I know, I forgot. And I don't have my my phone down here. Okay, it's an English name. It means noble strength, which I think is perfectly fitting for the Pear Girl. And basically gives our little bit of disdain for the people who say that it's not healthy to be curvy.
Okay.
And her name is Audrey. Audrey is one of the pastoral characters from As You Like It. And that's one of my favorite. Rosalind is one of my favorite roles that I've ever played, so I kind of liked the idea of having a character from As You Like It, and I couldn't use Rosalind because we already have Roxy and Rosemary, and I was like, eh.
And you of course have the crossover with the Starlets. You've got Audrey Hepburn,
right?
Which admittedly is much tinier, but a really cool sort of Shakespeare Starlets.
It blends my futures together.
Yep.
So. Everybody, okay, so we're gonna do this. We gotta do this officially, guys. Everybody's jumping on it with the applause, but we're gonna do it again.
Yep.
Because we gotta do the official welcome.
You gotta say it.
Okay. Everyone, welcome Audrey to the Court of Disdain.
Yay! Yeah, she is so cute. I think you'll be seeing a lot of her.
Yeah, she's going to be making a lot of appearances. We're going to be trying out some clothes. I've already discovered a few things that fit her, so we will play with some of those. I've been specifically trying to find things that I'm like, people might have this in their wardrobe or it's still available. And we'll try some of those things, and I will also do measurements for y'all.
Yep.
Once again, repeating that they are going to be for pre-planning purposes only.
Which we will repeat on the video. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for also, we're finishing up, now that I'm home, the final production of the video game collab video that came out
we're gonna revisit
way
the
too many
collab
weeks ago
that we did with Enchantarium, Beth Ramsden, and Magical Girl Kit Kat, and get that out there.
Which if you haven't seen their videos, they're so good. I loved everything everybody did, and I can't wait for you to see what Sandy has been doing while I've been stuck in a hotel room. So stay tuned for that, and we will of course also see you next Monday for the Smart Doll News.
That's all for us. Bye.
Bye.